All right, welcome back everybody to AI Data Mastery, where we explore how AI and data are reshaping B2B businesses. Just want to give a quick thanks to our sponsors, Data Accelerator and Evolve with AI. We appreciate you. I'm your host, Jason Reno, and today is an exciting day on AI Data Mastery. I'm thrilled to welcome Wally Wang, founding managing partner at Scale Asia Ventures. Now, he was named Business Insider Seed 100 list of top early stage investors and previously led US tech investments for Fosun International and multi-billion-dollar family office. So this Wally has a very unique perspective of operator and investor and has a wealth of knowledge between AI and data and exactly what businesses are looking for and how they can leverage it. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Wally. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, can you, obviously I just gave a quick intro, but maybe just give a quick background on yourself and Scale Asia Ventures and kind of what led you to this point.
Sounds great. Thank you. So I studied computer science, machine learning, in college and doing various research at top institutes here in the States. So I came to the U.S. To join NYU in a PhD program. I was actually in the business school at Stern. Spent a few years there, and I also did a research fellow at Carnegie Mellon. So at that time, it was a lot of data mining and machine learning from the it was really before the deep learning era, and that's really I was personally very interested in that, and a lot of my classmates and lab mates are now professors at Stanford, MIT, UC Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, U Chicago, etc., etc. So I've been always in that space for over a decade, and I came to the Bay Area in 2014. So at that time, I decided to not continue pursuing in academia route. I decided to jump to more on the entrepreneurial journey. So I ended up with joining a Y Combinator startup called Pebble. That was one of the earliest smartwatch company. So I was in charge of building the data pipeline and machine learning models for that consumer electronics company. We have over a million users, active users using our watches, and there's a lot of data pipelines and data warehouses that we have built and modelings around that. And then that leads to acquisitions by Google eventually. I then spent a few years in fraud detection and AML space, B2B fintech, but also using machine learning and more specifically unsupervised machine learning techniques that was really developed from cutting edge labs, worldwide well-known researchers. And I scaled the business, really selling to large enterprises, internet conglomerates, as well as banks and fintech companies worldwide. And from there, I definitely see the scale of how AI can really change day-to-day work of some traditional industries or larger industries like financial services industry across both KYC, KYB, AML, etc., etc. So I spent a few years. In total, we raised over $150 million, and I helped scale the business to tens of millions and still growing in terms of their revenue. I then jumped to become a venture capitalist. So for the past 7 years, around 7 years, I've been full-time investing. I do a lot of early stage, but also on a growth to later stage as well, really focus on AI and B2B softwares. So about 1/3 of my VC job was before the ChatGPT moment. At that time, I was mostly investing in cloud infrastructure, cloud technologies, and also SaaS companies, software as a service company. But post GPT, post ChatGPT moment, now we are all focused on 100% on AI native applications and also AI native infrastructures. So that's been mostly through my fund, Scale Asia Ventures. We have been investing into over 80 portfolios over the past 4 years. We have 8 exits already. And as I mentioned, 100% into AI native applications and also AI infra. So yeah, happy to deep dive into specific topics or areas. But yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah,
Um,
no, but I mean, talk about hitting the nail on the head in terms of having a perfect guest for our show. Obviously, AI and data is your expertise, and that's the name of the show. Especially, and then obviously with the B2B business, it sounds like you've had quite the journey through. I mean, honestly, it sounds like you were using machine learning and AI before it was trendy and cool, and people were rewriting emails with it, right?
yeah, absolutely. That was, I think you can call it predictive models. But those are also pretty sizable models, but are mostly doing predictive analytics using various of like deep learning techniques and modelings. But I think what this wave of what ChatGPT is changing dramatically our day-to-day life is through the generative models. Like basically the AI can do things is by itself and continue to generate create stuff. So that's definitely we see this as influential, big mega change. Back in around 3 years ago, and since we adjusted our investment strategy since then as well.
Gotcha. So I'm curious from a B2B business owner standpoint, like when you're looking at companies, what do you see like what are companies doing that are actually making AI work and productive and help them grow and scale versus like what are the companies that just are kind of just using it as a buzzword?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the action takers and the just the guys thinking about it?
Yeah, great question, or it's great perspective, Jason. So, really think about the what really matters in the world is about enterprise adoptions, like really using the AIs in the day to day work. I think as every single new technology started, there's early adopter and there's always bubble and buzzword around that. Not a lot of people understand about how the technology works, and there need to be a maturities of technology and service providers to help educate people how to use the technology. So from my observation, I can see that we are still at a very early on adoption curve. Not a lot of people knows how to use AI. That's I think a couple of reasons. One is still the data. There's still siloed of data, and not every organization has a good um, record or system record of keeping and updating the data and utilizing the data, and also that includes all the way from databases, data warehouses, and also all the infrastructures that they can support the AI applications to run. So there's a missing piece, I think, under there. So it's not easy to just to turn on a AI engine to work in your organization. So I think that's why we see still a lot of money is spending towards consulting firms, or even the the data engineering type of work that need still a lot of kind of I mean efforts to fill in the gap. So once after you get the whole data, I think that the data repositories or data that you can start to use, generative AI is not perfect. So there's a lot of hallucinations. I'm for sure people talk about that a lot of times, and also there's enormous of cybersecurity risks and other regulatory risks. So not a lot of enterprises are so advanced to use it across their platforms. Usually what I see is the enterprises start to use from some innovative products, or some more of internal employee facing, not external customer facing applications, so that to try things out. And that will take a few quarters, or if not years, to kind of really maturize that and then showing up to the eventual consumers.
Yeah, I don't think people realize, and the reason why I incorporate data into the show is because
Yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
think the average person realizes how important data is to AI. Like it's like the blood going through our veins, right? Like AI is AI, but without the proper data, without the information, it can't do anything. And that's where I think that misconception is yeah, I mean you can cut and paste a couple emails, but that's so generic. I'm talking about, like you're saying, enterprise level
Yep.
um, AI and data. So that way, without that data, without the proper data, whether it's consumer data, backend data, whatever it is, the AI is not going to ever live up to its maximum potential with that data. And then what you had just touched on too, we've talked about in a couple other previous episodes, is what exactly is being shared. And, obviously some businesses, it's, you got a manufacturing business, you're not dealing with HIPAA or PII or any of this other information or any of these other, regulations that you have to follow or abide by here in the US. And that's where I think there's even a bigger gap that we'll see how this transpires over the next, like you're saying, 6 to 12 months or a couple of years, where, yeah, how does that healthcare company that needs all that data, needs all that information, but also wants to incorporate AI?
Yep.
You have to build, closed end systems that, that won't just go out and, jeopardize those other rules and regulations.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
We
that,
don't want to have like a let the AI to control everything. We still want human to give it supervisions for the moment. So there's a lot of efforts
yeah,
to.
it's what I've heard somebody. You got to put up the guardrails, right? There still has to be
Exactly.
some guardrails to keep it from just wandering off, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And then let's touch on a little bit about data as an asset. When you're
Mhm.
coming in and evaluating a company,
Yep.
obviously the use of AI is important, but what do you look at in terms of data? Is it like consumer data,
Mhm.
backend? Like what are you looking for? What are the key points when you're evaluating the data that a company has?
Yeah. So I want to start with, what does the model, what is the, how do we come up with the model, right? Like when you train the model, there's are basically two generic aspects. One is pre-training, which is, using the public available information mostly across the web to train a foundation model like ChatGPT. And then that is, already there's a few vendors that are providing decent high quality of models that are, have a good understanding of all the public informations and public available data. And then after the pre-training, there's when the enterprise start to utilize that in different specific areas of applications, they need to do what we call post-training. Is basically applying the base model, the foundation model, in your specific area, and that really is really about how good of a quality of that specific domains data that will help further post-train a good specific model for different enterprise applications. So that's basically the framework if you think about. So the foundation model companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, they will do their best job of training a good base model, and then enterprise will really build using their proprietary data to do a specific domain models. So there are more, a lot of unsolved problems and challenges in the post training to train a specific model. Um, of course, there's a lot of model related challenges that I won't get into details, but such as how efficiently you can train that, how quickly you shall adapt that, because the underlying data is always changing dynamically, and how fast you can come up with the result, right? How fast you can generate the image or generate the results or generate the summaries, generate the emails, how efficient that will be, how cost effective. There's a lot of issues out there, but there is also a bunch of key, concerns or challenges and problems you need to solve for enterprise to just preparing the data. So the data assets that you're talking, you just mentioned. So for enterprise, we all know that it's garbage in and garbage out. So not every enterprise has a good kind of good cleaning up and preparations of the data assets to feed in the model to further train a specific model. One of the example is that if you do not have a good evaluations or the output evaluations of the result, then you can just you will not be able to get the model to learn or to be able to predict in a right way. It may be completely generating some garbages or some wrong directions, or it's not going anywhere. So for that, I think it's really about, in different use cases, you need to really see whether you have the golden metrics or the rubrics that are really high quality. If you do not have that, then you are in a issue. Like, for example, if your enterprise want to get some certain AI to work, but you actually do not know how to evaluate whether the AI is working or not, then you better figure out how to evaluate first before you jump in to train the model. Because AI without guidance, without telling the AI what is good, what is bad, the AI will not be able to learn by itself for the most part, because it's more domain specific and it's more related to your specific goal. So I think for enterprises, this is super important to understand how the process works, how the pipeline is building, and then importantly is that how do you guide the model to through the data to kind of come up with the ideal model that can work.
Yeah. So, I mean, from what it sounds like you're saying, it's, I mean, the data, the input is almost as equally as important as the actual like AI model, right? The AI
Absolutely.
prompting or the model that you
Yep.
call it. So
Yep.
when you're, as an investor, when you're coming in, you're almost looking at the data just as carefully as you are the actual model. And obviously you're looking at the output.
Yep.
But then I mean, to summarize it, yes, garbage in, garbage out, right? You put garbage data in, then you're going to get, you might still get an output that, I guess quickly, at first glance, hey, it's doing its job, it's giving this output, but is the quality of the output there? And the problem, if the quality of the output that is there, might be less the AI model, but more the data going into the AI model,
Absolutely.
correct?
Absolutely. So keeping short, I think you can say that not every single industry is ready for really that
Enterprise level AI, right?
yeah, to do that.
And
And
so that's super interesting because when you say not every enterprise business is ready for like enterprise level AI, it's more tied to their data not being ready in order, or like you said, packaged properly, prepared properly, segmented, filtered. It's really has to tie back more to the data than the actual AI model or software or whatever they're utilizing.
exactly.
And it's funny because I think so many people, I feel like so many B2B businesses or just heck businesses in general undervalue the data because they would use it, then they would just, it was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. But now with AI coming to the forefront, or at the forefront now, like smacking you in the face, you now have to take a step back and be like, oh, we better go tighten up our data, or hey, we need to start collecting more data. We need to start doing more with data. We need to start valuing the data more, because somebody like yourself that would potentially come in and invest is going to be taking a hard look at that data and evaluating it, along with every other aspect of the company. And that's one of the biggest things is what we try to educate people on is, yes, AI is the sexy kind of keyword, term right now, but take a step back and take a look at your data, because, all your AI outputs, all your success within an AI tool or tools is all going to start with the data. That's the first gear, so to speak. And, you're never going to get the car into fifth gear without the right data.
Exactly. And I think when we look at specific investment target, we are looking for those unique data sets and unique data sets that solves specific unique problems. For example, in legal space, we look at patent writing, IP legal issues, etc. That's a very specific domain. Super deep knowledge related to that's different industries, and there's certain only certain law firms has accumulated such a know-how. So by our portfolio, they work closely with the top IP legal firms that accumulated through the decades of the practice a lot of firsthand documents that then feed in the AI so that the AI can learn the proprietary knowledge from that, which is super valuable. So it's all about the data, whether you can get that proprietary data to train the model.
Yeah, and then one of my next questions is well, I guess you and technically maybe already answered it, but it's more along the lines of some of the pitfalls that some of these businesses go into. And I think one of the biggest ones is they start sharing their data or possibly sharing their data with OpenAI and these other AI sources or softwares or models, not realizing that that data is not private. It's not a closed, secure system. That is now, you more or less going and posting your proprietary, your company's data on the open internet, for lack of a better term. And I think that's one of the biggest steps, or one of the biggest pitfalls, or maybe caution, throwing caution out to other B2B business owners, is you really want to make sure that whether you're working with a consultant, a specific firm, or whoever you're working with for your AI implementation, that it's not just chasing this shiny object so you can do this cool thing faster, but you need to make sure you're doing it correctly. Otherwise, obviously you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. But can you touch on that a little bit? Maybe have you seen some instances where people ran into issues with sharing data or something along those lines?
Yeah, of course. I think the whole we have been impacted a few days ago by AWS, the server the cyber attacks. So I think in the AI world in the future, we will see more and more so of such instances, leaking of data, leaking of proprietary informations, but also being attacked because of AI agents are logging in or pretending is your employees or
it makes vulnerabilities within a system, correct?
it's much easier than before, because you're letting the models get a lot of highest level of accessibilities, and they are able to, without notifying you, they're able to go anywhere. So there's a lot of emphasis, I think, from the industry perspective, to really putting guardrails and also policies and monitoring how the AI is performing and what they can do and they cannot do. I think that's also what OpenAI has been increasingly, focus a lot of that to solve some of the questions. The concerns that we talked about. For example, if you want proprietary just in your data centers, in your database, avoid leaking the information to the public, I think OpenAI and the top models, they now have the solution. So they are only working proper in your environment, or the model they trained will just stay in your environment. But with that is, I think that's still not enough. You still need a more there's still a lot of chances that the applications that are running, for example, those email agents or those voice agents your company is plugging into, that does have somehow the access to some of the databases or the secretive, like customer information, for example. The customer contact information in before was stored in some databases that are only accessible with backend engineer. But in the future, some of the AI agent applications, the tools can mysteriously somehow be able to access that data. And what if it go wrong? Then they will leak all your client information to your competitor. That will for sure will happen. That's just one simple example. There's enormous of those backdoors and loopholes um,
Yeah, because
that
it's just so new. People don't
it
know
is
what they
very
don't
new.
know,
It is
right?
very new, and there was just no frameworks to to prohibit or to guide the enterprise to use such tools, because before it was the human that actually perform all every single tasks. So you can figure out and track and monitor and log every actions. But now,
And it's a lot slower, right? Like, I mean, now
yeah,
everything happens so quick. It's
so
like, oh my gosh,
quickly,
like
and it
all of
was
this happened in the last 15 seconds, and it's like it would
and
have
also
taken a
in
human
the
2 weeks to do it.
exactly, and it was somehow in the middle. There was also some black box because it's running a model, right? It's not super transparent, so who knows what's going wrong in the black box. So that's that, the velocities, the non-transparent aspects of the new generative AI applications that will cause certain issues. So I feel it's quite important for the enterprise to understand that, but also be able to continue to educate themselves, because the model improves every single day. So as a practitioner in an enterprise, you have to equip to yourself and continue to learn
Yeah,
how to
how do you learn as fast as the machine, right? How do you stay ahead of the
exactly.
machine, so to speak?
Yeah, so it's quite dangerous, but you have to because
Yeah, I mean,
other
at this point, the world's all in. We can't peel it back now. It's either
exactly
you're going to embrace it or get left behind. Well,
exactly.
sticking on the on the topic of like risk management, are there any other? I mean, I think the one obviously the data and the exposing the data, things like that. But are there any other blind spots that you see in the space that maybe aren't so obvious
Yeah, I think the
from
um
from a business owner
yeah,
standpoint, like
from
from
that perspective, yeah, I would just want to these days I've been quite thinking about this concerns regards like what should I invest, right? Because we see a lot of agent companies coming up, all the different startups solving different agents. I mean, building agents to solve every single tasks, etc., etc. For me, I feel like there's a booming of all those agents that can claim that can replace your executive team, your mid managers, even your secretaries, etc. But my understanding is that we still need a human in the loop and need someone to really take a responsibility. So not always the agent can do everything end to end. So I think one biggest mistake that people don't realize is that they are too optimistic about what the model can handle, and they're going too fast at the beginning, like handling every end to end everything, and that will cause a lot of issues, as we were mentioning, securities and all those risks. That's one thing, but also in terms of the the um, the ROIs, or the returns on dollar value, because if you are for example booking a ticket where you can just log in booking.com and just type it and click and purchase, is so quick, so smooth. And why you use a like browser agent to book a very simple ticket for you, where if you consider that agent cost, it will eat up a lot of tokens, and as you know, a lot of the companies are burning money. So I doubt like using the using the agent to do some simple stuff is worth it. I think some if I'm giving my best guess, is that in the future it will still be a human in the loop and human machine interactions, where the machine will handle more tedious and repeatable jobs in massive scale, but more accurate tasks has to be done by human being, and just a few quick clicks to approve and to access that. I mean, those are what I figured out would be the best way to leverage and be able to build a accuracy system in the long run versus just let the agent to handle everything. It's a little bit too scary, and I think that's a waste of resources as well.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even through some of the AI consulting I do for businesses, you meet with the business and they're like, "Oh, I want an AI agent for this, 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 and this," and it listed out like 10 or 15 different things, and it's just like, look, time out. Like, let's go through your process. What are the biggest holes or gaps that we have in a client acquisition process or the fulfillment process, whatever it is, and let's start one at a time. We're not trying to implement one AI agent that can do 10 things or 10 separate AI agents. Let's take it task by task, prioritize the problems, and then implement it that way. Because, yeah, to your point, if it's going to be completely end-to-end AI, and mind you, for like a quick, tube of toothpaste, or if you're selling a pair of shoes, you can probably go end-to-end AI to get your conversion. But if we're sticking with the B2B topic, you're looking at $100,000 a year contracts, $1 million a year contracts,
Absolutely.
large. At some point, AI can only do so much. You still have to bring in that human relationship
Yep.
to further the deal. And that's where I think that's what the industry is going to learn very quickly here, in my opinion, over the next 6 to 12 months, as everybody's implementing AI SDRs and everything else, is where does AI grabbing the attention and maybe getting that initial reply or interest off an email or an ad, versus when does that human relationship have to come in? Because at some point, if you're trying to communicate or build a relationship with the CEO that's going to sign a $100,000 a year contract to use your product or services, it's not going to be an end-to-end AI, SDR. Human being has to come in and, keep those quote unquote guardrails up and keep managing. But I think back to the original question, I think the biggest, one of the biggest outside of the data and the data breaches and everything else is just people trying to do too much too fast with AI. You don't have to do everything right now. You still want to maintain control of your business and your client relationships and things like that. It is a phenomenal tool to increase efficiency and reach more people in a shorter time frame. But yeah, it's not going to do everything for you. It might go grocery shopping for you, but you still got to make the meal, right?
Yeah, that's my prediction, but not a lot of people agree with that. I think still, every new technologies, there will be enthusiasms and overexcitement around that. I think right now we're in the phase a lot of people believe that AI can do everything from end to end, and too optimistic from my perspective. But I think eventually we will realize the bottleneck and to balance, what human is good at and what machine is good at, and collaborate, coexist. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I think it's going to vary vastly between different industries. If
Oh,
you
yeah,
have a
absolutely.
direct-to-consumer product, a local business, e-com brands, B2B brands, every industry and niche, that adopting AI is going to look so different depending on what business and niche you're in, and depending on the human interaction you actually need to build the relationships and close the deals.
Exactly.
Wow, this it took a slightly different direction than I thought it was going to, but this was immensely valuable. I loved how we were able to get, from a business owner's standpoint, because, obviously, attracting new business and, getting new business into client acquisition is important. But as a business owner and leader, risk management, making sure you're not setting up your business or the business that you're working for, up for failure or possible, government regulations coming in. I mean, there's a lot that can go wrong when misusing data, and I think that's a big red flag and a very important topic in the marketplace right now. So really appreciate you being here, Wally, and sharing all your insights with us. Very, very valuable.
Absolutely.
Anything else that we forgot to talk about, or anything else you want to mention before we sign off here?
Yeah, I think it's all about that, and yeah, it's. I think maybe we can. You will put the about my firms, those links in LinkedIn. Your audience will be able to know how to reach out to me if they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have one of the shortest websites and easy to. It's sav.vc. But yes, I'll make sure we put your links down in the show description and everything else. So sav.vc if you want to jump in, learn more about Wally. And I think you would be a phenomenal guest. A lot of the guests that I'm having on recently, I'm teeing it up so that way we can reconnect in maybe 6 to 12 months from now, and we can revisit and see if we were right or wrong in terms of some of our predictions, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, happy to give you updates.
All right, perfect. Well, we appreciate everybody being here. I know there's no way you listen to this episode without finding some value. So thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go check out Mr. Wang's website, and don't forget to tune back in for another episode real soon. Thank you all, and talk again soon.
Thank you.